As Africa continues to develop and urbanize, numerous challenges have emerged due to poor planning. These are related to pollution, which is causing climate change, congestion, security, transport, food security, health and social services, income generation, water and sanitation, energy, and solid waste management. As people migrate into urban areas, most of them are not able to afford the highly priced residential houses. They find themselves in informal settlements where they are able to afford very poor houses. Poverty is really what you see with poor waste management. A lot of people even don't have proper toilets. Most of them use the drainages as the toilets, and the drainage actually pours into the rivers in there. Nairobi River is heavily polluted as a result. Universities have a role to play in sustainable development. They have a mandate to carry out research, to do community outreach, besides their normal teaching.
People who have to go and work with the urban communities, and particularly the urban poor, they need to understand much better the issues that affect the poor urban communities.
Africa is faced with a huge challenge of producing adequate sort of human resource and having them with the skills that are required to transform this country.
Therefore, they have a challenge really to come up with a curriculum and to prepare learners who can be able to go out there in the society to be able to address those challenges we've just talked about.
The world is not about to slow down because we are behind. We have to be very creative, we have to be very innovative the way you are doing it, so that we can be able to catch up, if not be better than other countries in the world.
This is where universities are going to be capacity built to be able to mainstream sustainability issues in the curriculum so that they can influence the learning outcomes to be able to equip learners with skills to address sustainability challenges. During that year, we mainly focused on conceptualization and rationalization of that program. The following year, we focused on curriculum development to be able to come up with the tools to implement this program. We started with inducting the lecturers who are going to be facilitators in the workshop that was going to test the program. It was important to induct them because not many lecturers are familiar with the principles and philosophies as well as methodologies of ESD. It was also important that they are inducted to be able to know how to develop materials that can be used to promote education for sustainable development. After developing the materials, it was important that the same facilitators identify learning sites in the field. After identifying the learning sites, it was important then to identify the learners so that after the training, these learners would be able to go back to those towns and replicate the program. After identifying the learning sites, it was then important that the lecturers develop the materials for the one module that was going to be used for testing, that is the integrated water and sanitation module. A number of instructional materials were developed: foundations of sustainable development, community resource development, sustainable urban planning, climate change and sustainable urban communities, ecosystems-based development, sustainable entrepreneurship, urban governance and ethics, principles of cleaner production and green economy, community innovations for sustainable development, monitoring and evaluation, research and field methods, and e-learning. We organized for a 3-week workshop to carry out the testing, where we had about 14 learners undergoing this program. The main objective really was to test the feasibility of the esda1.flv program, particularly the new teaching methods of problem solving and action learning, and also the new mode of delivery, which would include e-learning.
So UNU is going to coordinate and also support in ways of fundraising and also academic support with the other UN agencies in Kenya and also in other parts of the world, including UNESCO, UN Habitat and UNEP.
esda program is seen by UN Habitat as having the potential to really make a difference, not only in Kenya but in Africa and possibly globally. But more importantly, the methodology, the focus on the practical learning, the hands-on learning, the bringing students into the slums and really give them the skills to address the current urban issues. I think that's something that will resonate with universities, students and local governments throughout the continent, but also globally.
The course is very, very important because we look at the environment, we look at the people, we look at the actions that we do, and we also look at the impact of those actions. And where we can see negative impacts, it is the aim of this course to teach the learners to be innovative and to be exhaustive.
Because esda is about environment and people and sustainability. A critical component is actually ideas about sustainability thinking. People thinking the systems approach. People thinking from an integrated approach, not a compartmentalized way of doing things. And also because we are in an era where the world focuses on climate change, for instance, the course is also addressing those aspects, and especially how they affect urban communities, including food security, energy dynamics, and energy is always a critical issue, meaning the urban informal settlements.
There were quite a number of sites which included the Biodome Center, kitchen gardens initiated by community groups, water and sanitation projects. These learners went to see what resources the communities have there. Also to see what skills these community groups already have and what skills they lack, skills that they would use to come up with new solutions in response to the urban challenges.
Mpango kama huu ni mzuri, upande kwanza kama huu wa kujenga macho ni mzuri, na mimi bado naambia mashirika bado choo hazijatosha, Kibera ni kubwa. Hapo kiangalia hapa landlords wengi hawana choo. Wanakuwa wanatumia flying toilets, lakini tangu tujenge hicho imesaidia sana. Pia biogas inasaidia hata community, na pia imesaidia wale watu wenye walikuwa wanashinda vile watafanya. Watu wanaenda kazini hawana bafu, lakini sasa hivi mtakutaka kwenda kazini anapitia hapa mapema, anachemshia maji na gas, anaoga maji ya moto ndio aelekee wapi kazini mwake.
In informal settlements, there's the issue of space, and without much space, the community cannot practice kitchen gardening very effectively. So the vertical gardens have replaced the normal gardens, which actually serve as gardens. Communities can harvest a lot and address the challenge of food insecurity.
Sasa unajua kwa sasa hii maisha ni ngumu. Uwezi niambia utanunua mboga kila siku. Sasa heri uweke kwa mlango yako ka space kadogo, ujenge gunia, uweke hapo mboga 2-3, itasaidia. Hii inatufaidi sisi wanachama kwa sababu hii tunatumia kama kitoweo. Kama uko na unga au na mboga, utakuja uchune hapa kama mwanachama. Seedlings inatuletea mapato. Kufundisha watu kijiji kupanda mboga na gunia. Sasa tunauzia seedlings, each seedlings tunauza 3 bob.
Now, one of the common mechanisms communities are generally using is use of solar disinfection, very commonly called SODIS. What they are doing is to have the bottles, which in many other environments would look like waste materials. They put the bottles on top of a roof or rather any other surface that has got enough sunlight. Anything from 8 to 10 hours exposure of those bottles to sunlight normally makes the water of relatively good quality for drinking.
Local governments, of course, need people with a solid foundation. They need some theoretical understanding and need to have the background in terms of urban management, urban planning, urban governance.
Waste, and particularly solid waste here, can be a resource because the Jamii Jiko basically uses waste to produce energy that a number of communities can share and cook.
We trained 30 youths from the community on the importance of collecting rubbish, and they underwent a training on 3-day capacity building on solid waste management. And then we made an agreement with the local communities that we will be collecting the rubbish twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. At the site now where the rubbish is spread down, do sorting, and then from there the sorted rubbish is spread on the drying rags, of 3 drying rags. So from the third drying rag we have a chute there whereby the rubbish is pushed down and then one operator is pushing in the rubbish to the fire box.
Hii jiko inasaidia wa mama. Anapika keki, anauza. Anapika chakula, watoto wake wanakula. Na saa hiyo hajanunua makaa. Sasa mimi naona iko na faida sana kwa mama kwa jini. Mama akisikia hana pesa ya kununua makaa au ya kununua mafuta ya kupika ya taa, anakuja tu anachukua analipa $5 na anapika chakula yake, anapika ugali na anapika mboga na anabeba anaenda anapatia watoto. Si unaona hiyo ni faida?
Key outputs of the course testing workshop included learning sites identified, community-based innovation developed, multidisciplinary networks, partnerships developed, module on integrated water and sanitation for urban sustainable development developed, curriculum for esda1.flv was revised and oriented towards objectives of education for sustainable development. Capacity building opportunities were exploited where both lecturers and students were able to acquire skills for ESD.
In some training we just sit in a class, talk, but this one we had to go for field work, see it with our own eyes, like when people talk about sanitation in Kibera, they only talk without identifying what is there.
I, as a participant, I was able to come up with an innovation that is management of solid waste, in particular fecal waste management at the point of generation.
One of the things that I like, which is different, is the act of linking the site of study and the learning in classroom.
But of course there are many things that can be improved. We must learn as we develop the program, and I think this is where the next phase of the esda should focus in terms of improving and then disseminating and sustaining what has been developed.
We see esda as a flagship activity because UN Habitat aims at strengthening local governments, leaders at the local level, technical people at the local level. And without proper university training, it's very, very difficult to build the skills that are needed.
That support will need to be given by the universities themselves in the first place. We will need support from government, especially the relevant ministries, in terms of buying in the idea of a new program.